Hold up. My views are my own. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Lightning round. Dangerously close.
Do you mind if I do like a quick vocal warm up?
Sure.
All right. Hello, it is I, Pierre Francois, attorney at law. My guest today is the Marquis de Morès. And if you leave a 5-star rating or a nice review on your podcast app for this podcast, you could win a 2-night stay at the Fontainebleau Hotel and 1 million francs. Sorry, man. I had to get that out of my system. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get through this podcast without bringing out my alter ego, Pierre Francois, attorney at law. So we're done with that.
Yes, sir. Of course.
Okay, no,
Je
guys.
m'appelle Jeff DuJardin.
That's what I was.
Marquis de Morès.
That's what I meant to say. Was my guest today is Jeff DuJardin, and or if you want to say it American style, Jeff DuJardin.
Exactly.
Jeff stars as the infamous historical villain Marquis de Morès, or Morès. There's a bunch of different ways you can say it. We're going to learn a lot about pronunciations. Nemesis to Theodore Roosevelt in the new original INSP television series Elkhorn, set in the 1880s Dakota Badlands. Most recently, DuJardin has emerged alongside Oscar nominee Terry Moore and Golden Globe nominee Isabella Rossellini in the feature film Silent Life. Not only that, under his Hidden Cove Pictures production banner, DuJardin added filmmaker to his credits with the period short The Things We Can't Forgive, earning Best Narrative Short at Venice Shorts and Best Short Film nomination at the Montreal Independent Film Festival. And if I wanted to, I could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on reading your credits, but nobody came here for that.
Yeah.
I'm here for you, man. Correct me if I'm wrong, but now that we're speaking face to face, you sound like an American.
Yes, I was born and raised in the smallest state in the United States.
Ooh, Rhode Island?
You got it.
Yeah,
You
I
got
guess.
it.
Fuck yeah, dude. I'm smart.
Nice. You should be on Jeopardy.
The
Not
only reason,
the smallest in terms of population.
yeah,
It's got like 1 million people, but geographically the smallest in size.
yeah, but they have the largest ball of twine. I believe.
Do
I
they?
made that up. That has to be someplace more like Kansas, I would guess. Somewhere in the middle, they have that.
Home of the potato head. We invented the potato head. Hasbro is located in Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Home of Mr. Potato Head. Yes,
it is.
That is a claim to fame that, I mean, very few can, only the Rhode Islanders actually can claim. All right, man. The reason I brought up the fact that you're American, look, I'm not trying to sound like a gossiping, Guinevere, but there have been so many instances where there's an actor that I like or I respect. I think they're talented in so many ways. And then I hear them do a French accent. And I'm like, what are you doing? You know what? It's like, it's worse than what I did at the top of the podcast here,
Yeah.
And so my question is, why do you have such an authentic sounding French accent? And can you teach it to me?
Well, I appreciate that. I grew up hearing French. My mom is fluent in French. My family emigrated from France in the late 1700s, and they came from Normandy, France, and ended up in Quebec. So I had a great uncle who was the mayor of Montreal for 4 straight terms.
Oh, yeah.
In the 1940s and 1950s. And he was kind of controversial because he was very adamant that Quebec separate from the rest of Canada. So that was his whole platform.
Damn. That's a hard line.
Absolutely. And then my dad's side came from Belgium. And in Belgium, one of the main languages is French. So they have French, they have Flemish. Yeah, my grandfather was fluent in both of those, and he came over. He was a merchant marine on a ship that was torpedoed 3 separate times. One of the only times I mean, each time he was one of the only survivors. And the third time he was in the Arctic Ocean on a lifeboat. And I think a couple of the guys in the lifeboat died, but
Whoa.
he held on. He held on with his fiery will. And they were rescued by an American ship, which brought them to New York City. So he was recovering in New York City, and he was starting to feel a little bit better. So he decided to go for a walk, and he saw this Belgian social club, and he went in, and that's where he met my grandmother, who was also Belgian, but she was raised in New York City, working at Macy's, and they fell in love.
Oh, wow.
And that's how, yeah.
It's a great story. Belgium's been in the news a lot lately because they're very, very, very progressive. But I have a short anecdote. I want to just bring this up because you just made me think of this. Happened a couple nights ago. The great Jean-Claude Van Damme is a Belgian actor, and the other night I was like, I want to watch this movie. I hadn't seen it since I was a kid. It's my favorite movie when I was a kid. It's called Double Impact. He plays twin brothers. It's one of the split screen movies, and one of them grows up in Los Angeles, and one of them grows up in China, and they are reunited in like at 30 years old, and they both have a Belgian accent. And I don't know how I never noticed that before until the other day.
It's crazy. Yeah.
His kicks are so fucking cool that you just don't even notice that. Like, that doesn't make sense that they would both have a Belgian accent because they're separated as infants. Like, they wouldn't even have been able to talk yet. Anyway, that's neither here.
Well, maybe that's speaking to the telepathy of twins. How they say, they no matter where they grow up, they both like strawberry ice cream, or they both like this, they both like that. Maybe they both had a Belgian accent. I don't know.
Yeah. So you got like the Canadian influence, you got the Belgian influence,
and the French.
And the French, yeah.
And so my grandfather on my mom's side ended up fighting for the Americans during World War II, and he was a French interpreter on the beaches of Normandy, which is, ironically where we came from. But he saw horrific things during the invasion on the beaches of Normandy. And thank God he was able to help out by being not only a soldier, but an interpreter at the same time.
Yeah.
Minored in French in college. So, I've studied it as well. I grew up knowing what the accent should sound like.
Yeah. That's one of my things is, it's not just, I would say the French accent is one of the ones I see like very poorly performed a lot by American actors. But the other one that I think is weird is just a Southern accent, just a Southern United States accent. A lot of people just don't bother to learn. So they do the foghorn, leghorn, type thing. And then a lot of people, they just do like a Pepe Le Pew or like a Monty Python French accent. So Anyway, I just having hear you speak, I was like, oh, is this guy French? Cool to find out that you're just straight up just doing the accent. That's pretty sick.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, there were a few real French actors on set. There's a scene where I'm in my dining room with my wife in the show, and the maid of the house was actually French. So when she said, no, it's sounding really good, that gave me confidence to keep going.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. Well, hey, let's get historical. Who was the Marquis de Morès? Where did he come from? And what the hell was he doing in the badlands of the Dakotas?
Well, he was the son of a duke, a Spanish/French duke. So he grew up with both the Spanish and French influence. But he went to the best French academies for learning the trade of war, so to speak. And there was a French school in Saint Cyr, and he quickly became one of the most outstanding students for his marksmanship, his intelligence, and he ended up being deployed to Algeria, where he was in the cavalry, and he became a leader in the cavalry, and he stood out for his ability with weaponry, and I think he killed a couple of the notable leaders of the enemy forces, and he gained some popularity in France for his badassness, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so he was privy to some of the parties that would happen in Paris. He was hanging out with a lot of the cultured people of that time. And I think it was at a party in Paris where he met his wife, who was visiting from the United States. And she was Medora von Hoffman, who was from this wealthy Dutch family, the von Hoffmans, who had ended up in New York City. So she was mostly raised in New York, the daughter of the famous Louis von Hoffman, this banker and financier. And so that's how he ended up in New York. And I think for a short amount of time, he was working in the bank with the father-in-law, but it just felt a little too small for him. And he had all of these grand ideas. And, I think it was partly that military ambition kicking in. And he had heard a lot about people getting rich in the Wild West.
Yeah.
And so it was his goal to become the first billionaire of the Wild West.
Oh, actually, this is going to sound like a dumb question, but
yeah,
like what years are like what kind of, like what is this time period? Like kind of like what decade would that be in?
1880s. So
Okay.
it's the kind of the end of the Wild West area.
Yeah. So that's why it's in the Dakotas, because like most of the other Arizona, California had already been kind of overran, right? This is so one of the last places where you could just show up and just like be like, oh, this is my land, and just squat on it, put fences up, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he had these grandiose ideas of owning the newspapers out there, the transportation services, the clay industry, diamonds. He had this idea where he wanted to refrigerate the insides of train cars, which was actually a pretty ingenious idea. Nobody was doing it because the slaughterhouses in Chicago, according to the Marquis, were pretty corrupt, and they would take more money than they were really deserved. So he decided to try to raise the cattle, slaughter them there in the Badlands, put them on these new refrigerated train cars, and then send them directly to the consumers in the big cities back east. His idea never really got off the ground because the corrupt people in Chicago, they found a way to they would charge him extra to take the trains and charge him extra tariffs. And then there was a big snowstorm, and that really delayed the trafficking of the beef.
I have heard on multiple occasions that those Chicago slaughterhouses during that time period, that was the most nightmarish conditions that anyone could possibly have ended up working in. And that it's I mean, that was definitely pre mob days of the 20s, but still a lot of the same kind of shit going on, where you got basically crime bosses, but they're running slaughterhouses.
Wow, yeah, that fits right into the tale. So nightmare not just for the cattle, but for the people working there as well, I guess.
Your character, when you're playing the Marquis, you're a villain because you're the nemesis to Theodore Roosevelt, and this is he's, I guess, kind of the hero. But do you think, in your own opinion, do you think the Marquis was a villainous guy, or just a really ambitious dude who crossed path? He had to step on some toes of some powerful people and maybe went down in history as a villain more so. I don't know. I'm curious.
That's a good question. I think he had his motivations that were deeply embedded in him since childhood, growing up with this military background and siding with the French army on its numerous conquests growing up. I think he had this belief that God had blessed the French army to kind of impose its will in various parts of the world. And he was a big religious person as well. So I think he may have justified a lot of his actions with falling in line with the will of God and with the will of the greatness of the French country. And he also really loved his wife, and he wanted to make her proud. He wanted to succeed as much as possible so that his wife would be proud of him. He named the whole town after her. He founded the town and then named it after her. And whenever people would say, "Wow, that's the most badass marksman in all of the Badlands," he would say, actually, number two. My wife is actually a better shooter than I am."
All right.
Which was rare for a woman back then to be so skilled with weaponry.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a gray area because, times have changed so much that it's hard to like take any man from the, year 1880 and, hold them to like standards we would have now.
Yeah, no, very true. Very true. There were various instances that I came across in my research, like when he was accused of murder in the Badlands. When you look deeper into it, he came and he had purchased a bunch of land, and he decided to put up these fences around his land where his cattle would graze. But a lot of the hunters who had been in that area for decades said, "Well, we're not used to this, so we've been going down these pathways for years. We're just going to cut those fences." And so the Marquis just kept putting the fences back up, and the hunters would come and they would snip them down, and the tensions just continued to rise and rise. And then the Marquis got wind that the hunters wanted to kill him, and so he said, "What am I going to do?" And he contacted the local sheriff and asked him, "What should I do in this situation?" And the sheriff said, "Just shoot him." And so, yeah,
the good old days.
right. But
did he do it? Did he blast those hunters that kept cutting up his fences?
He did, but he kind of waited for them to come back to him, and I believe the way we have it portrayed in the show is he kind of set up a duel between them because he was the best duelist out there, and he kind of trapped them and then forced them into a duel. And so even then, he's kind of giving them another chance.
Yeah,
he's like, so these are ways that I justified in my mind. I've got to protect myself. At this time, there aren't, police departments set up everywhere. There's not a lot of rules and regulations. And so you got to do what you can to survive. Teddy Roosevelt comes out there and he's trying to impose all the red tape of the East Coast. And the Marquis is resistant to that because he knows that's just not how things are done out there. It's like you're putting your own life at risk if you're not ready to defend yourself at any time.
Yeah, the Marquis notoriously challenged Theodore Roosevelt to a duel, I think with swords, even like a really old school style of duel that I think Roosevelt declined. So I mean, obviously there was beef,
Yeah.
That's why you play his nemesis, But who do you think really started the beef between the Marquis and Roosevelt? I mean, the Marquis was there first. What Roosevelt's out there like trying to build a political career. I know that this show is the story of Roosevelt and all that, but I'm kind of curious. I mean, like maybe he was out there kind of like, I don't know, kind of getting maybe being somewhere like he didn't belong.
Well, I think that the particular beef you're referring to had to do with that whole murder of Lufsey, the hunter. So even though the sheriff had told the Marquis, go ahead and shoot,
Yeah.
there were a lot of people out there who didn't like the Marquis because he was buying up a lot of the resources and building, putting up these fences and kind of, imposing his will out there. And so there were a lot of people who didn't like him. There were a lot of people who did like him too, because he was giving jobs to a lot of people. But anyway, after that hunter got murdered or killed, a lot of people wanted to put the Marquis in jail. And so he had to go through trials and probably had to bribe a few people. And he actually did spend some time in jail. And while he's sitting in jail, he's like trying to think of, who had the power and who had the influence to like actually get him in jail. And he started becoming suspicious of Teddy Roosevelt, and in particular, one of Teddy's right-hand men. And so he wrote this letter to the Marquis, to Teddy, basically said, if you were behind this, I'm coming for you, essentially. And Teddy had to write back very carefully because he didn't want to say anything that would, he really did not want to get into a duel with the Marquis because he knew he'd probably lose.
He's kind of like, he's like a French Doc Holliday. Like, you don't want to duel Doc Holliday.
Yeah, exactly. And so Teddy had to write his letter back very eloquently and keep his pride and say, if you really want to throw down, we can throw down, because Teddy was no joke. I mean, Teddy, he grew up with severe asthma and he conquered that. His dad always told him, you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
The doctor's telling me you should be sitting at home, but Teddy's dad is like, no, you're going to become a boxer. And he fought the local bullies who tried to bully him. When he went to Harvard, he was boxing some like legitimate boxers in the ring. He lost some of those matches, but he always went down fighting hard and getting bloodied up. So Teddy was not one to back down from any challenge.
You know what he should have done? Since he was like boxing and he was big, he should have said, instead of a duel, how about a fist fight to the death? That would have been that would have been gnarly.
Yeah, that would have been although the Marquis was pretty well trained in hand-to-hand combat as well.
You're right, man. But, it was a lose-lose. I guess he probably chose rifles because he was like, I might live through this.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the main thing I know about him is he was a national parks guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that the teddy bear is named after him.
I didn't know that. Holy shit, really? You learn something new every day. All right, guys, you heard it here first. Teddy bears were named after Theodore Roosevelt. Hey, here's a quick question. This is a little bit off of this is like modern times. Do you think that the United States government should bring back the legalization of duels between consenting adults?
Are you good with guns?
No. I don't even own a gun, dude. But I would rather actually duel with a broadsword anyway, if something like that. Or like some sort of Viking weaponry, maybe like an axe fight. Like that might be kind of a great way to handle it.
Wow.
Well, that might also show like your resolve. Like how serious are you about this dispute?
Right.
So I mean, I don't know. It's just a thought. So all right, dude.
Because you could really, you could chop somebody's left arm off and they're still coming at you with the right arm, and you slice their leg off and they're still like limping at you, and they come with a little knife and they, it's vicious. That would be a horrific way to die.
Oh yeah, if you're talking about if you had secondary melee weapons, so like if they lost their primary weapon, they could still pull out like another like a knife or dagger. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Shit, man. All you're doing is really convincing me more and more that I think we should bring back the legalization of duels between consenting adults. I'm not saying that like you should be allowed to duel someone that doesn't want to duel you back.
Yeah, right. I mean, they're consenting. Who cares?
I think that if two adults have decided that they would rather than go to a court of law, and lawyers are expensive and court fees are
Mhm.
expensive, and you could say, look, hey, man, we have a dispute. It's irreconcilable. And we can go to court, and that's one way to do it. And it could take 3 years, and we could both lose all of our money. Or right now, we could have an axe fight with one secondary melee weapon.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's two consenting adults. Let them decide.
I think I'm sort of draw you over to my side on this one. All right,
I
dude.
agree with
I
this.
really wanted to talk about.
I thought it was a joke at first, but I
Oh
see
no,
the
dude.
rabbit.
I was watching Shogun recently, and obviously I don't agree with maybe a lot of the customs of feudal Japan, but there was like one thing that happened where I was like, this would be nice if this was still a thing. It's where like if you disrupt the harmony of someone's home, you have to sit down on the ground and bow and then beg their forgiveness. And if they don't forgive you, you have to stab yourself in the stomach.
So what if you decide that you were in the right and you're like, I don't want to apologize because I didn't do anything wrong?
Oh, well, your
Because
honor is
then
at stake. Culturally, at that time, honor would have been far more important than your actual own life, supposedly.
I think it probably matters who's upset with you, right? Because
Oh, yeah,
if
well, no, because yeah, I mean, like if like for instance, like there's such a hierarchy of society, it wouldn't really work out for most people because someone that's like higher than you, like socially, can be as rude as they want and they don't have to apologize. So I was saying like if it was equal all the way around, if everybody had to be nice to everybody, or else they had to like beg forgiveness or commit seppuku, I think people would be more
exactly,
like a lot more polite.
it would be phony politeness, but it would get the job done.
Yeah, you're right. I sound like an idiot right now, but I stand by the duel thing. Hey, moving away from duels, sort of. But talking about westerns, which are full of duels. You know, the high noon shootout and all that stuff. I think like the first Western came out in like 1894, like not long after like the time period that you got like the that you're shooting if you know a show about now. And I think like Westerns on TV started in the 40s. And it's just people still love the Western genre. And I was just wondering, like, what do you think is the reason Westerns have so much longevity and like and mass appeal? Like they're still so fun. Like, you know, it's still fun to watch. Like there have been 100,000 westerns, and people still want them.
I think it's the mustaches. I think that's what it is. I don't know that they're back in style too. You're walking down Hollywood Boulevard, Silver Lake. You know, there's mustaches everywhere now. I think it's the unpredictability of it. You don't know who's gonna jump out from behind a bush at any time and start shooting you. Um, just horseback riding, the mountains, the cacti, the scenery, the wardrobe, the bandanas. It's just hard to pinpoint exactly what it is, but you know, it's the Americana, the pride in a nation that's beginning to form and come together. It's like a time that we can never go back to, but it's part of our culture. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I was just thinking like it must be fun as hell to be in a Western. It seems like I mean, I'm sure it's fun as hell to be like in all kind especially anything especially that has action in it, but just I don't know, it just seems like such a cool, fun thing. Like for me, like going back to like my childhood, like as a
Yeah,
kid, like you know, like how much I thought like Tombstone. That was my grandpa's favorite movie. And I watched that movie with him like just over and over and over again, and I never got tired of it, you know? And so I guess my question really just to hand it back to you, like I mean, did you have any kind of love for the westerns before you got cast in one, or did this kind of like
Yeah, well, growing up as a kid in Providence, Rhode Island, I would dress up as a cowboy a lot as a kid with some friends. We'd have baseball bats as guns. Yeah, no, we used to walk around the neighborhood dressed as cowboys, boots, hats, walk to the library, show up with our in full regalia.
Hell
And
yeah.
then my dad would help us film movies out in the backyard where we're shooting each other and fighting each other. Some very extended scenes where we were really getting pretty brutal, like beating each other up. I watch them now. I'm like, damn, we were really going at it.
Yeah.
And then I loved watching Indiana Jones, which kind of is in that similar vein of a movie.
I
And
agree. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Yo, that's cool as hell that your dad would like so you've been acting since you were like a kid in the backyard. Like your dad was like
Oh, yeah.
helping you guys make movies.
Absolutely, absolutely. And my
Yo,
dad loved movies. He was a big movie fan. Some of my favorite memories were sitting next to him on the couch watching Indiana Jones. Um, and my his grandfather was a cab driver in New York City. And one time a film crew stopped him while he was driving and said, "Hey, we need a cab driver for this chase scene. Can you be in it?" And so that was kind of like the stuff of legend in my family
yeah.
growing up, hearing about, oh, great grandfather was in this movie. And, it was just part of this kind of like love of movies and theater too. My mom did theater in college. And so all my brothers and sisters growing up, they were all in the school plays. I have a brother that acted in college as well. I did local theater growing up, and then I went to the same high school where all my brothers and sisters went, which was St. Raphael Academy in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. They're a powerhouse. They've won a lot of state championships for drama festivals. I think when I was there, we won 3 out of my 4 years. We won the state championship, and then the other year we got the alternate, so we were close to winning. And then I majored in college. I majored in theater arts in college, minored in French, and we then I was in some professional plays in New England after college before I moved to LA.
Oh yeah, man. That's yeah. It was meant to be. Like you were on the track the whole time.
Yes, yes.
Jeff, I got to tell you something, man. We are getting dangerously close to the lightning round. I'm going to tell you how the lightning round works. I don't write the lightning round. I used to back in the day, but now co-producer Colleen writes them all. It's literally on a piece of paper, and I don't look at it until the time comes. So you never know what it's going to be. I'm going to check it out now for the first time ever. But basically, how it works, it's going to be a series of questions. You answer them as fast as you can. It's not intellectual. It's all gut reactions. First word that comes to your mind.
So
Uh,
is it like 1 or 2 words you want for each one?
well, actually, the reason I said that is I already saw that this is a Mad Lib. So you're just going to say like adjective, noun, verb. So these aren't really questions. These are you're just saying adjectives, nouns, verbs, so on and so forth.
Okay, so it's like one word that I'm supposed to say.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, basically one to 2 word answers.
Okay, okay, got
All
it.
right.
I know the rules.
Okay, this one is called "The Ballad of the Marquis de Morès," a Mad Lib story by co-producer Colleen, co-written by Jeff DuJardin. Are you ready to play?
Oh yeah.
Once upon a time, there was a man. Oh wait, shit! I'm not supposed to read that, idiot. Man's name. You just say like any man's name,
Oh, man's name.
like John.
Okay. Zepharias.
Place.
Providence, Rhode Island.
School lunch item.
Cheesy pizza.
School lunches did have like I'm nostalgic for that. Woman's name.
Edwina.
That's a beautiful name. If I ever have a daughter. Adjective.
Ticklish.
Another adjective.
Moist.
I don't know why so many people hate that word. It's an awesome word. Number.
777.
My lucky number, man. Noun.
Salt and vinegar chips.
Adverb.
Sluggishly.
That is actually so close to what I had in my mind. I was thinking slowly. Isn't that crazy? Uh, verb, past tense.
Danced.
Adjective.
Stunning.
And another adjective. And I promise we're getting so close.
Broken.
And a plural noun.
Chimpanzees.
That's a good one. And one of my favorite animals.
They're smart.
Okay. Yeah, they are. All right. Okay. Literally, almost like last part. Adjective.
Terrified.
Body part plural.
Forearm hairs.
And last one. Kind, loving phrase.
I'll keep you in my thoughts.
That's very kind and loving. Unless you like, it depends on how you say it. Like if you say that like in a real like threatening way, like I'll keep you in my thoughts. I don't know. All right. I have a feeling that you have just created history. This might be like something that maybe you might want to send to the producers over at your show. I'm not sure yet, but we'll find out. This is the ballad of the Marquis de Morès, a MadLib story by co-producer Colleen, co-written by Jeff DuJardin. Wait, DuJardin, sorry. I was trying to do it French and then I just fucked up. Once upon a time, there was a man known as the Marquis de Morès. However, only a few people knew his real name was Zephyrius, Providence, Rhode Island, Cheesy Pizza, Edwina Ticklish III. He kept that a pretty good secret. Anyway, the Marquis had married into a moist family and thus gained access to a sum of $777. He wanted to make his mark on the world, so he created a new town and opened up his own salt and vinegar chip packing factory. It was going to it was going pretty sluggish until a man named Teddy Roosevelt danced into town. The Marquis and Roosevelt hated each other. The Marquis thought Roosevelt was stunning, and Roosevelt thought the Marquis was broken. Finally, the Marquis challenged Roosevelt to a duel. He knew he would lose if they used guns, so he suggested they use chimpanzees instead. Roosevelt agreed. The duel was on. But at the last minute, both men decided life wasn't about the duels you won, but about the terrified friends you made along the way. They hugged and looked at each other in the forearm hairs and said, I'll keep you in my thoughts. The end. Oh my God, what a beautiful story.
Yes, I'm in tears.
Man.
I'm internally crying and just how beautiful that was.
It's going to haunt me all day. All right, Jeff, I have one last question to ask you. It's the most important question of the day. Where can people find you, follow you, check out all that you do? I know you've got, I mean, we talked about almost exclusively just this one show, but I know you've got so much other stuff going on. All the good stuff.
Yeah. I was actually doing a voiceover this morning. I'm actually in a director friend's office right now in Hollywood, on Hollywood Boulevard, named Vlad Alex Koslov. And he directed me in the movie behind me, The Immortalist. He's doing this movie, American Superman, where I will actually be playing Christopher Reeve when he's in a wheelchair.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's coming up soon. And we also are going to be premiering the Silent Life, the story of the Lady in Black, which is about Rudolph Valentino, the first Hollywood sex symbol. Vlad Alex Koslov also directed that movie, and we're aiming to have a premiere at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, where they show a lot of movies during the summer, and we're going to show that movie there. It's going to be a big old time premiere with old limousines, people in tuxedos, inviting a lot of actors who are getting older now, like from the 1940s, 1950s. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. But you can find me on Instagram at Jeff.DuJardin. I have a website, jeffdujardin.com.
I love when you can get your own name on the website.
Yeah. That's one of the perks of having a name that's hard to pronounce.
Yeah, that's one of the not perks of my name. That there's like, if I Google my name, there are like thousands of dudes with my name. Jeff,
Yeah. Well, we have opposite problems.
yeah, Jeff, man, it has been such a pleasure finally getting to talk to you. And man, all that stuff sounds great, and I can't wait to see it. So,
Yeah.
thanks for being here, and I hope you have a great day, man.
So good to talk to you, Doug. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too.